Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello and welcome to The Bolder Woman. This is Season 1, Episode 18, and I'm Chris Stafford.
The voices in your head, you've put your courage to the test, laid all your doubts to rest. Your mind is clearer than before, your heart is full and wanting more, your future's at the door. Give it all you got, no hesitating, you've been waiting all your life.
If you're new to the show, The Bolder Woman tells the stories of women over 50 who are still competitive. And it's not often that one gets to have compelling conversations with women in their 90s who are still passionate about their chosen sport and as competitive as ever, but even fitter than they were in their 70s. This is one of those interviews that draws you in when you think you're going to discuss their sporting career and those standout moments, perhaps the titles and the trophies, touching on their past to set the story in context. But then the conversation lingers on a distant time in their life that shaped their future, and with the years those memories become more precious, deserving to be shared with a wider audience and memorialized. That is one of the reasons why it's important to record these biographical stories in the person's own voice. So when we were introduced to Rita Price, who, by the way, turns 93 this week, it was obvious that this was a story to be told, and so we had a wonderful conversation about her tennis, yes, but also about her life growing up in New York during the Second World War. Rita shares those memories of being a dancer and playing the nightclubs, and how tennis became a natural partner to her dancing career. She's rightly proud of her achievements on the court. In singles, she plays doubles and mixed doubles, and she recalls those highlights with her partners and the tournaments that paved the way. She's an inductee of the Colorado Hall of Fame in 2013, which proved to be a bumpy year for Rita. She continues to play a few times a week and competes with her partner Jane Lutz, with whom she won the 90s Nationals in La Jolla recently. And in between the tennis, she stays fit with working out at the gym and Tai Chi. And of course, she still sings and dances. Hi, Rita. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm proud to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about where you're based, because I think you're out in the Midwest. You're in mountain country.
In Aurora, Colorado, a suburb of Denver, Colorado.
So has that always been home to you then, or have you migrated there?
No, I was born in Astoria, Long Island City, New York, 1926, and I'll be 93 on June 22nd.
Oh, your birthday is coming up. We just caught you in time to celebrate your birthday. Wonderful.
Yes, sounds great.
Wonderful. All right, so you're obviously still playing tennis quite competitively. How important it is playing tennis in your life now?
Tennis has brought me around the world to meet various people in various nations and on the international scenes when I was in my 80s, my 70s and 80s and 85s. And now in my 90s, there are no internationals, so I just play 4 national tournaments in the United States. And tennis, I like to meet different people, and every time I go to a national, I meet the friends that I've known I've been on the national circuit for about 17 years, so it's like a big party for me. And at this point in the 90s, although I'm still competitive, it's mostly to meet my friends and party and have a good time.
Yeah, it really is the camaraderie, isn't it, that we get through sport?
Yes, the camaraderie is what I love the most. I'm very, very hammy, and I like to be on television, and I do a lot of talking. I have a lot of stories about, well, I don't know if you've seen any of my interviews. I've done some interviews in La Jolla recently.
Well, we'll have to talk about all of this, but I want to just go back to set the scene, if you will, Rita. When you said growing up in New York back in 1926, you were born there. I'm curious about those early days and where sport, if it did play any role in your early childhood.
Yes, it did. I remember playing softball, or was it stickball, in the public facility in Astoria, Long Island. I was right across the street from PS122, which is no longer there now. And I broke the bat, and I ran home thinking they were going to charge me for the bat. And the person that was running the show came to my house and asked about me and wanted me to be on the softball team. And my mother said, no child of mine is going to be on the baseball team, no. But I started to learn to tap dance in that school, and that's how I got into show business. All the vaudevillians that singers and dancers and comedians were put into the public facilities, public schools, and you could learn to tap dance. And it was Roosevelt's 19th, after the big 1933, he put all of those performers into the schools, and he also put boys into building roads in the United States as well. So it was WPA, Works Progress Administration, that brought me into my dancing career. And my dancing feet is what helped me on the tennis court as well. I'm not that great a wonderful performer as far as I love to sing and dance. And so it's like a song and dance to me now at this point. And so the show business career gave me my dancing feet. And so that's what brought me into tennis. But I started out, I played handball and I played table tennis when I was in college. I played table tennis, and I went to New York and was paid $2 to play against the number one in the world. And I lasted a few shots, but he wiped me off the court. I won my first match there. So I played table tennis. I played softball. I skated on the streets and did some tour jetés as well. And so I love sports and any sports that I could get into. As a matter of fact, I also played basketball, and there was a gentleman that came and said, whoever hits the most basketball shots from the line, the foul or the baseball line, when I would get a ticket to the movies. So I stayed up late at night and practiced making shots from the basketball courts and got free tickets to the movies as well. So that was my early sports career, although the dancing was a tops in my career as well.
Well, I want to hear more about dancing in your vaudeville career, because obviously that was a golden era for vaudeville back then.
Oh.
But let's just go back to your parents' reaction then. Your mother said, no, there's no daughter of mine who's going to play on a softball team. Did your parents not have any involvement or interest in sport, or did any of your siblings?
My brother was a good baseball player until he developed a rheumatoid heart murmur, and he's had to stop. But my parents were more interested in we would go to the Astoria pool, and they had a big concert of singers, and I remember we had Caruso records, and I listened to a lot of Dick Clark's Bandstand, that kind of thing. My parents were more interested in music rather than my sports career, although they didn't dissuade me from it. I still played. I played handball and played basketball and played. I guess it was paddle tennis with a little wooden racket, but that wasn't important. The singing and dancing was my passion.
It's all about hand-eye coordination, of course. What did your parents do for a living?
My father was a custom tailor. He made suits for Rockefeller, but then the big crash of 1933, and he was not able to do that. And so my parents actually divorced when I was in my teens, 14, and my mother had to support the family, but she wasn't able to do that. So we had to move from our apartment in Astoria to New Jersey in a relative's home, and we were able to rent that place. And so I went to school in New Jersey, in Clifton, New Jersey.
Yeah, which schools did you go to?
I went to PS1. I left PS122 and then went to, actually, when I was in my teens, that was the last time that I was educated, as far as I think I did a couple of years in Long Island City High School. I don't remember that too well. And then I was in show business, and I went into show business in my teens. I started out in burlesque. I always say I was a hoofer, not a hooker. But the performers, the striptease artists were not hookers. That was a joke. I just made that up because I like alliteration, H&H. So I was in show business from my teens into my 23 years old. I went back to high school as a second semester sophomore, and I was graduated from Clifton High School, number 3 in a class of 250, and I got a scholarship to a teacher's college in Montclair, New Jersey. I got my BA and my master's degree and 12 credits towards a PhD, and I went back to Clifton High School and taught biology and science in Clifton High School. I started there. So I went back to from which I graduated. Everybody says I graduated. It's not graduated. You graduate from the high school.
Absolutely. I'm glad you set the record straight there, Rita. I also am curious as to where you were during World War II and how that played out.
I was on the road. I was in burlesque. I traveled on the burlesque circuit with my mother for 1 year, and I remember riding a train from Pittsburgh to Newark, New Jersey, standing up with the soldiers were seated, and I did a show. I did a show at the Newark Theater, the Troc Theater in Newark, New Jersey. So I was in burlesque during the years. I remember in Harrisburg is when VJ Day ended, and I remember that day. But so I did some USO. I did a show when I was in burlesque in Boston. There was a naval hospital there, and so the burlesque people, except the strippers, they didn't want to excite the naval officers or the naval patients, so they didn't allow the strippers. But the bicycles from Victoria Bicycle Trip, Burns and Burns jugglers, and Rita Price, the tap dancer. A burlesque consisted of scenes where you had a burlesque scene, and then you had a chorus line coming out and dancing, and then the tap dancer with the specialty dancer tap dance, and then the showgirls paraded after that. And so that's what the burlesque scene was like. And I met interesting people there. I met some of the world top strippers there. And one of my friends was a Mei Ling, who was a Chinese stripper, and I was her friend. And I remember being at the Troc Theater in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and that's April 24th or 5th. When Roosevelt died, they closed all the theaters. And so one of the trumpet players, who was a fill-in in the orchestra at the Burlesque House, was in love with the stripper. And so he invited us to a jam session. It was with Artie Shore, Glenn Miller, Charlie Parker, one of the great saxophone players, who had there was a film called Bird, where Charlie Parker was talked about. He died, of course, of an overdose. And Red Rodney was in the film as well and traveled with the group. He traveled with Charlie Parker and all the boys. And so I thought, oh, my goodness, they're invited me to this place. I'm going to be given to heroin, because at those times, a lot of the guys were on heroin. And so it wasn't like that at all. They just want to play jazz. And so 45 years later, my daughter said, Mom, Red Rodney is at one of the clubs in Denver. So I went to see him and talked about the fact that he was 19. I was 20 when I was in burlesque, and he sat in the pit and played Honeysuckle Rose licks on it. I did a routine, and he played, and when I took my bow, he stood up and took a bow from the pit. So I recall that to him. And he told me at this time he was off heroin and all. And of course, all of the people in the young men, he did some of the seminars in colleges with Ira, with one of the trumpet players, and not trumpet players, sax players. Ira Sullivan and Red Rodney did the seminars. And he said all the college people were all kids that weren't on any of the dope or anything like that. They were all clean. And so he reminisced with me then. And then there was a broadcast about a month after that. Terry Gross on public radio mentioned Red Rodney, and he had died. So I got to see him before he died, but he was one of the people that I remember. He and Mei Ling, who was my friend. I sent a picture to the Burlesque Hall of Fame, which is now in Vegas. So you probably could see a picture of Mei Ling, and along with Sally Rand's fan. Of course, I met Sally Rand in Boston at the Charlotte Cushman Club for young ladies in the theater. And I remember her ironing her wardrobe in the basement there. So the burlesque and the dancing and the singing was very colorful for me, and I recall a lot of that. I still now perform. I'm one of the MCs of a singing group in Denver, the Sunshine Serenaders. I do a little singing. We do the songs of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Some of the people don't remember what they had for breakfast, but they remember all the old songs, the Alzheimer's notations. So I do a little duet with my partner and tap dance a little bit and bring joy to people. And that's my passion. Although the tennis is, of course, important in my life, but as I said, the movement of my feet in tennis was from my days tap dancing.
Yeah, clearly. And, of course, you probably rubbed shoulders with Benny Goodman as well. And you mentioned Artie Shaw there. This was a golden era. And those memories must be really, you must really treasure those memories now.
I do treasure those memories, yeah.
Any standout moments when you look back down memory lane then at that golden era of music, when you were performing?
Yes, they were. There was one time it was New Year's Eve, and it was in the Troc Theater in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in burlesque. And I did my tap dance and went off stage and went backstage. And the manager came rushing to me, and she said, "Hurry up, get backstage. You have a standing ovation." I said, "A standing ovation?" I said, why would the tap dancer? Well, all of the wives were with the men. Instead of applauding the strippers, the wives induced the men to applaud the dancer. That's why I got a standing ovation, but that was just a fun thing. But it was just meeting colorful people, and some of the people that I met in burlesque got into film. I went into nightclubs after the couple of years. I went with my mother for about a year, and then I said, "Mom, we're not making any money," because I had to pay all of her expenses. And so I said, "Let me go by myself. At least I can send money home then, and we can make, because my brother, my younger brother, Paul, he's the one that allowed me to go for tap dancing lessons. After I was taught by this vaudevillian, I had to go to a studio and learn what Ann Miller and Eleanor Powell were doing. They were doing ballet tap. It wasn't like the old days. I was doing impersonations of George M. Cohan and Harry Lauder, and this was old vaudevillian, and that's not what sold and what allowed me to get better as a tap dancer. So I had to go to a studio and learn to dance, and it cost money. I remember going to the studio in New York City, and the choreographer, Tommy Royal, taught me the routines that I learned, and I took some ballet lessons, and that's how I got to be better, and I polished it in burlesque, and then from there I went to nightclubs. And there was one there was one show that I did in November in Thanksgiving. It was a vaudeville theater. It was the Temple Theater in Jacksonville, and they needed a dancer to also dance at one of the posh embassy nightclubs. So I was Rita York at the vaudeville show, where you could see a movie, you could see newsreels, you could see 5 acts of vaudeville, and it was 50 cents for adults and 25 cents for kids. This was in 1945, I guess, and in the 45. Then I went to the Embassy Club and did 2 shows as Jane Morgan, who was a famous singer. I was Jane Morgan before the famous singer was Jane Morgan. And on the bill was Freddie Bartholomew, who was a child star, and he emoted from Shakespeare. And of course, the nightclub people weren't interested in Shakespeare at 3 and 4 in the morning, or 1 in the morning. So he didn't do too well, but there was a Colston's, which were a dance team that was on the bill, and Gil Lamb, who was a comedian, and he was in Moody's after that. So I was rubbing elbows sometimes with some of the people that made it from the nightclubs and theaters into the films. Mickey Shaughnessy was one of the people that was in the famous, he was in a few things. Jack Sue was another one. He was in Barney Miller, and he was playing with me at the nightclubs in oh gosh, I guess it was in Pennsylvania, the Vine, and he did a routine with one of the guys that was with Frank Sinatra, Joey Bishop. It was Joey Bishop and Jack Sue did a sort of a same as the famous Jerry Lewis and who was the singer? Oh gosh, can't remember the name of the singer. My mind is a blank. I'm not going to be 93. So anyway, getting back, I really enjoyed being in nightclubs as well, and that's what gave me my dancing feet.
Well, you're name dropping there, of course, and I'm taking notes here. But how about Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, Fred Astaire?
Well, I never worked with them. I do share a birthday and a time of a story with Tony Bennett, who became a famous singer. But I was given, when I got into the Hall of Fame, I was given a wish of a lifetime. And my wish was to see Tony Bennett. So they let me go to Reno to hear Tony and bring a friend, and all expenses paid. But I never got a one-on-one. The only people that I were face-to-face with that were in film was Mickey Shaughnessy, the wackiest ship in the nation. He was in one of those. And then Jack Sue, who was in the Flower and Drum Song and also was in the TV show Barney Miller. Those, and of course Freddie Bartholomew, which I didn't really, he was just an acquaintance. But those are the only two people that I can name drop. I did meet, and when I was listening to the jam session, Artie Shaw, and I listened to the music, but I didn't have a face-to-face one-on-one with either of those, just listen to their music. So I can drop the names, but I have to admit I didn't really know them personally, except Jack Sue and Red Rodney, who was with Artie Shaw at the time.
Did you ever get to play at Carnegie Hall or dance at Carnegie Hall?
No, I danced at Zimmerman's nightclub, Zimmerman's restaurant in New York City. When I was out of town, some of the shows said, Rita York, straight from the Strand Theater in New York. Well, I never played the Strand Theater in New York City. I played Zimmerman's. And then in those days, you can play every little nightclub, had a floor show with a juggler, a dancer, a singer. So you could get very, very comfortable with your act and play all these little nightclubs, all on Long Island City, the Valley Stream, and I played all of those. But today, the people that want to be in show business are either in a studio or they're in TV or on the Broadway show. There's no little place where they can go and hone their skills, which is too bad. But a lot of the kids, I feel sorry for them, because in my day, you could go to any nightclub. So I played all of the little nightclubs around Long Island City and in Boston. I was in Canada. I played a theater in a nightclub in Canada, and the Gaudier Golf Club, I think, in Toronto. So I played theater. I had a manager. First, I had an agent. In those days, you had to go and talk to the agents and tell them, where you worked. And the people with whom I worked were my friends, and they would say, well, tell so-and-so that this manager or this agent that you worked with me in such and such a club. And that's how I got to play all of these clubs all over the world, all over the States and some in the world. And in Mexico, as I played in Juarez, Mexico, I remember. And it was through the people that I worked with that gave me an in to get to an agent and tell them I worked all these places, even though I hadn't. And that got me to these various places. And then I finally got a manager in addition to an agent. So it was 10% for the agent and 5% for the manager. And so his name was Seymour Shapiro out of Chicago. And he booked me all over Canada and all over the United States. And then after 7 years, I decided this was it. If I wasn't going to make it in Hollywood or Broadway, I'd go back to school and become a science I wanted to be a psychologist, but I wound up being a science teacher instead. I got my scholarship to Montclair, New Jersey, and so I was able to teach until I got pregnant. And in those days, you couldn't teach after you were pregnant. Oh, I got married, of course, after. I got married at 35. I got married to a PhD scientist who was in the space program, and it lasted about 25 years, and we were divorced. So now I'm performing for the kids, for the old people, not for the kids.
Well, I was going to say, it's not something that was a career that you ever gave up by the sounds of things. You've continued to do that, but was it enough to make a livelihood, a living out of then back in those days?
In those days, I was able to send money home. I could make a living at it, yes, playing nightclubs and theaters. Along my mother, I didn't have to pay her expenses. If my mother traveled with me, we just broke even because that was too expensive. And mostly I took trains and buses. I never flew. So I was able to make a living, but I decided that if I wasn't going to be in a show or in Hollywood, in film, I would stop and go back to school and get an education. And so as I was in school, I worked actually while I was in high school. I still worked nightclubs. That's where I met Mickey Shaughnessy, and it was in a nightclub. And so I would fall asleep at the last class because I was tired coming home at 3 in the morning. So I did work all summers until I graduated from high school, from Clifton High School. I worked all the summertime, and I worked in the theaters and in nightclubs, rather, at night. And I said, Mickey, I'm going to miss my bus back home if I have to go on late. He said, that's okay, kid, I'll cover for you. So he let me get my bus. So I thanked him for that. And I did my last show at the Clifton High School. It was a big show that they had, a big extravaganza, and I did my last tap dancing show there, and that was it. Until now, until my 80s, and in the 75s and 80s, well, I'm back dancing for the old people now.
Yeah, well, I'm curious then as to where, if at all, sport, not least of all tennis, fitted into those years where you were traveling and you hadn't settled on your next career, so to speak, and in married life and having a family. Where did you pick up?
I picked up tennis after my children were in high school. We were in grammar school. After the kids were, I lived in Lookout Mountain. I was married at the time, and I started to play some tennis at the Mount Vernon Country Club. We belonged to the country club in Mount Vernon, which was a large club, actually. They had buffets, and people would come from all over to go to the buffets at the country club. And I started as a C player, and I worked up and went to practice until I got to be a B player and then an A player, and I got my Mount Vernon Country Club team to get up to a next level by saying the A's are going to play with the C's and bring them up to our level, so that we were able. I played what we call interclub, where you went all over the Denver area and played different clubs, and at the end you went to Gates and had a big party there. And after that, the Colorado Tennis Association decided, we can make some money. So they said, we will, for a fee, get you to play all of these places all around. And, of course, that's when I played in leagues. I started playing in USTA leagues. And my 50 league was the first league that got a national finish. We got the gold in Tempe, Arizona, for the 50s, and that was 1992. And we did it again in 1994. 93, we came in second. In 94, we got top billing again. We got the gold. And I played Senior Olympics, which is for all sports. And I was in from 1991 up until 2000, I guess. I played singles and doubles. I won all the gold medals in doubles and all of it with a wonderful partner, Evelyn Booth, who's no longer with us. And I also played mixed doubles and won with Dick DeVoe, and I won local tournaments here with different partners, Dick DeVoe and Herb Delaney, and I played the Denver Open from 1978 up until 2 years ago when I played in the 80s. I played down in the 80s with my friend Betty Hill and won that when I was in my 90s. So I played a lot of leagues and a lot of Senior Olympics, which was all over the country. The last one I played was at Stanford, and I won the gold in singles and doubles there. And I think I was 85 at the time.
So when you started being competitive then, did you have a coach, Rita?
No, I went to a Dennis Vandermeer clinic in Palm Beach, Florida 1 year, and came back from that. It was a teacher's clinic. They made us play left-handed and made us, and that's the only time that I ever had a coach, Dennis Vandermeer. It was a clinic for everyone from all over the country to go and learn to teach. And I decided I wasn't going to be a teacher of tennis. I just, when I got the divorce, I did have to go back, and I helped a pro teach, and he lived in the house. So I was able to stay in the house after the divorce. And then I got a job as a receptionist in a daycare center before the divorce was final. So I had to work. I helped clean houses until the final divorce was, I was able to get enough money to stay in the house. And I worked there. I worked in the daycare and the child development center for several years, and then sold the house. And now I live in a little room in somebody's house from which I'm speaking so that I could go around the world and play tennis. That's where I sold everything. And I just lived in this, I'm still in this room. This 17 years I've been in this one room, would you believe?
Are you a spectator, though, Rita? Do you like to go to, to Flushing Meadows or to Wimbledon? Or?
Oh, yes. I go, I had the most delightful event of my whole life. I played with a lady who was 96 at the time. We played in the 90s, and we won the United States Championship in doubles. Her name is Betty Cookson, and her husband was the president of the USTA. He's no longer with us. And Betty Cookson, my dear partner, for 2 years, we won all the doubles. I won singles and doubles until my famous partner from the 80s and 85, Jane Lutz, came in. And then I beat her after 17 years last year, and I'm going to try to beat her again this year. We were number one. She beat me twice, and I beat her, so we shared the number one spot. But Betty Cookson, dear lovely lady, invited me. She had, since her husband was the president of USDA, she had carte blanche to go to any of the USDA events. So she invited me to go to the US Open and be in the president's box and have lunch there with Stan Smith and all the biggies and watch tennis. So I love that lady for doing that for me. I mean, that was one of the highlights of my career. Before that, there was until 2013, if you won a gold slam, that is if you won singles or doubles in 4 tournaments, 4 nationals in the United States, the USTA paid your expenses to go to the US Open. And I played with a girl by the name of Pat Jackson and won 4 nationals and was able to go. That was 2013, and Stan Smith was the speaker. That was the last time that they did that. So they paid all the money now for USTA is sent to Orlando and for children, to the young kids. But we're the mentors of these kids. So why not keep that? But they don't. The USTA doesn't do that anymore. So Betty Cookson was the lady that allowed me to go back to the United States Open, the US Open in New York, and watch the biggies. I've watched Nadal play. And then, of course, when I was traveling, I was able to go to Wimbledon. I went to Wimbledon and saw all the greats there. I tripped over Monica Seles. She was in a lotus position as I was. Everything's underground at Wimbledon. Oh, I'm just going from one thing to another. I'm a sort of a Gemini. I talk in circles, so I guess you better stop me from. You probably have to delete a whole bunch of this, right?
No, we're loving it. Continue that story because, of course, I've been to Wimbledon. Well, the tournament, the large tournaments that you've been to, because I'm also interested in who your heroines or heroes were, because we all have them in tennis. Mine was Billie Jean and Margaret Court, and so who were you? Who were yours?
Yeah, Margaret Court. Yeah. Oh, I guess Martina was one of my. I got a picture with her, and when I played Houston last year, she was helping a gal with her academy, a tennis academy, Zena Garrison, and so she and I got a selfie with her. And I applaud people that have come up. She lost weight and got back in trim, and she was in mixed doubles, and now she's commentating. And I like Federer. Well, I like all of the older. I can't remember all the names of the young people, but I did meet one of the gals that's a mixed doubles. She won the mixed doubles. Bethany Standen, I can't remember her last. She was a keynote speaker at the Hall of Fame. I go to all of them. Every January there's a Hall of Fame banquet for the youth. The money is spent for all the kids, and all of the Hall of Famers go, and we have a keynote speaker, and they have a silent auction. And let me tell you, the silent auction to go to New York City, this was this year's silent auction. One of the things, they give fishing poles and they give weekends in Aspen and various places. One of the things in the silent auction was going to the U.S. Open in the president's box, plus a hotel for several days. And I would have bid on it. You know how much it cost to do that? $8,000. $8,000, my dear. It was spent to go in and God bless Betty Cooks. I went to the president's box. I have a baseball cap that says president's box on the back of it. So I treasure that. Oh, I don't know. I'm sort of going around in circles, aren't I?
And I'm loving the journey. So when you look at these big tournaments, then, and obviously you've travelled and watched some of the top players, as you said. Which tournaments do you prefer? Do you prefer the clay courts? Did you like the grass court of Wimbledon, or the hard? Because you play on hard courts, right? Which is pretty hard on the joints.
Yes, it is. But I won my first gold ball in the Germantown Grass Court National with a player with whom I never played, against two people that were on the cup teams. These were people that number 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the nation at the time. I was 79 years old. I won the 75 doubles in 2 sets. I think it was 2 sets. And so that was the biggest thrill. And I love the grass because if you fall, and I have fallen on the clay court and I've got a concussion from falling in Folsom, hitting the back of my head, playing doubles, singles, and I've fallen on clay and had to go to the hospital and get an MRI. But when you fall in the grass, you roll around. At Forest Hills, I played against my former partner with whom I won the first gold ball, Diane Hoffman. She's a top player, but she doesn't want to travel. She'll only play and she played with Donald Trump, as a matter of fact, in a fundraiser way back when in Palm Springs in West Palm Beach, Florida. She and I went 4 hours, 5-7, 7-5, 5-7, 4 hours on the court. And one of the gals that were the wife of the tournament director wrote in her on one of the national magazines for sportsmanship. We walked off the court hand in hand. And then I went to do a talk to the PowerPoint girls. The reason I got to do that, I went to New York, and after I had to take a shower, take a subway, get to New York after the 4 hours of tennis, and do a little speaking to those young girls about my life. And, I told them. And all of a sudden, I saw the eyes glazing over, and I said, wait, I stopped. This is not the story of my life. Pull the chairs over, and I taught them a line dance, so that they got up and were able to dance so they didn't fade away. Being a teacher, when it's time to stop. But Diane won't come to play. She's in her 90s, but she'll only play in Massachusetts at her court, the famous grass courts in Boston, Massachusetts. And she'll play down in West Palm Beach. So I love the grass because I'm not a great, wonderful player. I can hit a ball from off balance, and the grass makes you do that sometimes. So I'm able to beat a lot of people, and you get right up into the service line, and you never let the ball bounce after the first time because it bounces crazy. So you're able to you got to get to the service line and hit volleys. That's how you win on grass. I drop shot and then lob a lot on the grass too. I win my drop shots by slicing, and the ball spins and it dies on the grass. That's my favorite. I did see what's his name, the great server, not Pete Sampras, Andy Roddick. I saw him at Wimbledon, and boy, oh boy, right up front. When you see something up front, the serve is so fast. It's nothing like TV. You have no idea. Have you been to Wimbledon? Did you see?
Oh yes.
Speed of the serves, yeah. Roddick, yeah. And what's his name? Oh, another girl, Djokovic. Not Djokovic. There was a girl that played. Her name, I think it wasn't. No, it wasn't a man. It was a woman. It sounded like Djokovic, but I could see her go. I could see her breathe when you right up there. And you can't leave. If you have a grounds pass and leave at Wimbledon, they take your seat. U.S. Open, you could put your chair down and put your things down and go back. Only this court one, and I got to go to court one, and all of the people there were service people that showed you to your seats in Wimbledon. That was great. And I've been to the U.S. Open. I've never been to Australia, to the Australian Open or France. I'd like to go to those before I leave the planet, maybe.
Yes, you have to put those on your bucket list, Rita.
Yes.
They're fabulous tournaments.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned about moving around the court now, and the hard court obviously being hard on the joints. So I'm wondering if you've had, been plagued with injuries, because invariably playing sports, you get the knocks as well. Did you have any that threatened your career with playing tennis at any time?
It's my wrists that are my weakest. So I wear a brace on my right wrist. And lately, I've had a little bit of a ching in my knee, so I'm putting a little tape around the knee. I think I had more back problems and other problems when I was in my 70s and 80s than I do in my 90s. Could you believe that? I can't understand that. But maybe see, I do Tai Chi. I do line dancing. I tap dance. I write for the National Magazine and all that stuff. That has nothing to do with my physical. But the physical is from the Tai Chi has helped me in my balance. And I do take Tai Chi. I take 2 classes, 3 classes actually a week. In addition to my 24-hour fitness, I work out at the 24-hour fitness with balls and bands with the music. I'm not very good at going to a fitness place and getting on a machine. I like to see the people, I like to hear the music, and I like a teacher teaching. And sometimes my teacher, Renee Paul, she puts a little hip hop in, a little samba and a rumba in, which is great. That I love.
Well, you mentioned to me before we recorded that you had been to a gym where you work out. So tell us about the cross training. You mentioned these other sports that you do, but in order to stay fit, to play as regularly and for as long as you do on a day with the singles and the doubles, what do you need to do to maintain your level of fitness?
Well, as I said, I work out with weights, and bands and balls in between to get your muscles. And the line dancing helps, and the Tai Chi helps in my balance. So all of those things that I do the workout on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 24-Hour Fitness. I do line dancing. As a matter of fact, I'll be going to my line dance class in about 45 minutes. I do line dancing, and I also do the Tai Chi 3 times a week. And I play tennis with the young. I play with my former USTA League youngsters, 60s, 70s. Some of them are 75. Twice a week, somebody sets it up. And so I do play tennis on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And if anybody wants me to fill in, I'll play on Sunday or any other day. But I have stopped playing the leagues. I used to play leagues, and my last actual tournament here was at the Glenn Hines tournament. I helped a lady who wanted me to be her opponent in doubles, so she gets points and gets a better ranking, a better draw when she goes to a national. So I played in the 80s this May, just before I went to La Jolla. And so I've already completed my clay court national in Houston, and I love Houston because they have Mickey Hobbs, and he's a jazz singer, and I get to dance there. I get to do a lot of dancing. And then I played La Jolla, and I almost beat my partner. I had her. I beat her 6-2, and then we got to 6-5, and she beat me 7-5, 6-4. But I played 3 sets of singles, and then 2 hours later, 3 sets of doubles in the finals. That was in La Jolla. So I played 6 sets, and I wrote the article. I don't know if you saw the video. Did you see the video of me from La Jolla?
Not yet, no. But I'm curious then what you felt like the next day, having played that much. Do you really feel it?
Oh, I had a drink. No, I had a drink and dinner with my partner. Not at all. It was strange. I was there for 2 days without playing at all. So I had a doubles match, which was easy. It was a round robin in the doubles in La Jolla. And then I played against a weaker partner in singles. So I had a day in between. So playing 6 sets was something I never do. I never play singles. I haven't played singles in Denver at all. My partner, Jane Lutz from Sarasota, Florida, she plays with 3 different guys, a lefty and 2 other guys. She plays singles on the clay courts in Sarasota every single weekday. So the fact that I beat her is phenomenal to me. I can't believe I beat her. I threw out a lot of garbage. I threw out a little fly serve, a little drop shot and lob, and I gave her stuff she hated. As a matter of fact, when I won the mixed doubles in Austria, I picked up a partner from London. His name is Darius Izzati, Pina Izzati. And he said, I don't have a backhand. I met him. And I said, I don't have a good backhand either. But he hit lobs that hit the back of the line. She picked up a ringer from Australia, and he was number 1. And we beat a number 1 from Russia as well. He hit these lobs to the back of the baseline and he said, go. And I went to the net, and they couldn't send a deep lob back because it bounced so high. It was topspin. And so I was at the net, and all I did was hit angled shots for a winner. And we beat my partner and her ringer, and then we beat a Russian who was number 1 with a girl from Hungary, Ursavet, who was number 1 in Hungary. I mean, I beat her in singles, but she's above me because they have a crazy point system. If you play a lot of tournaments, they give you points for playing the tournaments. Even though I beat her, she's up ahead of me in the ranking, the ITF, International Tennis Federation. But as I'm 90 now, I don't really care. Who cares? I mean, it doesn't matter to me that I beat the number 1 that, I beat her. And then I lost to my partner in singles. So my best deal was in Austria, in Porčák, Austria, winning the mixed doubles with Darius from London, and then the doubles with my partner, Jane Lutz. And then when she got me in singles, I just walked her through it because I was dead. That's when I was dead. I was coughing all the way. People were bringing me cough drops and fruit and nuts and trying to keep me healthy. I have friends that came to see me. But that was a big thing, winning the doubles and the mixed doubles in Austria.
What year would that be?
That was 2013, was it? I'm not sure.
And that was the year that you were inducted into the Colorado Hall of Fame. So that was a big year for you. I was going to ask you about your those standout tournaments there, Rita. So that would be one of them if you could name like a couple of career highlights.
Well, I won. Well, see, I have to look at it's on my iPhone. I don't have it in my mind. In 2009, I won the doubles with a girl from Germany and were number 1 in singles against a nice Australian lady. And then in 2000, wait a minute, was it 3 or 9? See, it's in the Hall of Fame speech that I made. I'd have to go back and look it up. I believe I won 2013. That's when I won the world singles. Oh, here it is. I got a picture of me. Price nobs the first ITF World Championship. Rita Price claimed the first World Championship singles of her career as she defeated Britain's Betty Howard 6-1. She was on the cup team, my dear. That means she was number 1, 2, 3, 4 in London, and I beat her in the world. See, the world, first you have the cup team playoffs. I never made a cup team because my partner Jane Lutz beat me in Kansas. I beat her on the grass the next time, but they already made up the cup team, so I couldn't get on it. I never made a cup team, but I beat Betty Howard 6-1, 6-4 in the final, and the Super Senior World Championships in the 80s held November 9 to 15 in Perth, Australia. Unseeded Rita upset the odds by defeating number 1 Elsie Crow 6-2, 6-4 to reach the finals. The ITF Senior World Championships offer singles and doubles events for men and women. And so that's when I did that. That was a big deal to beat the cup team. I've beat cup team players. These are number 1, 2 in the world. I beat my partner last year twice. So, yeah, that was the year. Yeah, that was a big year.
What are the main tournaments that you're aiming for then this year, Rita?
Oh, well, then my next tournament is a national indoor in Vancouver, in Vancouver, Washington. And then the grass court is in Palm Springs, California. So I play singles and doubles there. I won it. See, before my partner Jane Lutz became 90, I won singles and doubles in 2016 and 2017. Singles and doubles in all 4. See, I won gold slams, but I never got to go to the U.S. Open because they stopped doing that. Anyway, then when my partner came in 2018, I won all 4 with her in doubles and 2 singles against her. So we shared number 1 status in 2018. So I'm hoping maybe I might be able to get her again on the indoor. I beat her last year on the indoor and on the grass. I beat her 6-2, 6-0 on the grass, would you believe? That's because she's a player that needs to have the ball right in the zone. And if it's not in the zone, she is not able to return it with a winner. So I'm able to come in and put it away. I don't know if I'll do it. But, hey, at this point in my life, I say that. I wrote the article about old age ain't for sissies. We're all winners. All of the people that are able to come out there. You have to look at that. You have to see that TV shot from San Diego. I talk about the 95-year-old. There's a girl, 95 years old. She's still playing. She sells houses, never takes a nap. I conk out. I take a nap. I mean, I'm either stop and go.
Obviously, you're enjoying it a great deal, Rita, and continue to do so. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the show and share your story. And the very best of luck with the tournaments to come. Presumably, you'll be glued to the TV now with Wimbledon coming up, will you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, well, look, we're all in Stuttgart. They're playing in Stuttgart. The guys are playing in Stuttgart and the girl, the ATP, coming up to Wimbledon.
Absolutely. And Eastbourne, of course, is wonderful preparation for that.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful tournament to go to. And also to get I used to do that and go and watch them practicing out there too. It really up close and personal. So you could see who was on form as they aimed for Wimbledon. But that's all to come. Yeah. That's all to come. So right in the middle of the tennis season. So it's a great time to have you on the show. Rita, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. You're an angel.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
And if you want to read more of Rita's career highlights, they will be posted on the website with the show notes accompanying this episode. Just go to wisports.com and follow the drop-down menu and listen to The Bolder Woman. And if you're new to this show, then take a moment to listen to some of the previous episodes. There are now 17 other episodes in this series, and we've a lot more stories to tell of these wonderful women over 50 who are still enjoying their sport competitively and being inspirational. They truly are some wonderful stories, and I hope you enjoy them as much as we do. And if you subscribe to Wisp Sports through iTunes, we would love to get a review from you. It means a great deal to us to get reviewed on iTunes. It helps us go up the rankings, so we're easier to find. So please take a moment to tell us what you think about Wisp Sports podcasts and the stories that you've heard of women in sport. And you can also join in the conversation by following us on social media at Wisp Sports, or by dropping us a line to info@wispsports.com. Until the next time, let's continue to turn up the volume on women in sport.
This is your moment. This is your moment in time. This is your moment. This is your moment to shine, to shine, to shine. So shine on. And every time you hit the wall, remember you can have it all, even the mighty fall. It's closer than it's ever been, and now it's more than just a win. It's where your life begins.